Details of a secret contract have emerged between ex-British Prime Minister Tony Blair and a Saudi oil company. The previously clandestine deal revealed that Mr. Blair was placed on a £41,000 a month retainer plus a 2% commission on any multi-million pound or dollar deals that he would bring and broker between Saudi, the Saudi oil company, and the Chinese elite, so members of the Chinese bureaucracy, which Mr. Blair had managed to garner and connections he'd managed to make during his time in office. The contract, Mark, up until this time has been kept secret, and part of its condition was that it was maintained secret. Why is everyone getting so upset about this? We'll come on to what the terms of the contract were, because obviously it's now been leaked. People are getting really upset about this for a number of reasons. One of the reasons, the most important of which, is the fact that Tony Blair is Middle East Special Envoy. Now, who is he Special Envoy to? He's Special Envoy to the Quartet on the Middle East. The Quartet in the Middle East has been set up to try to resolve Israel-Palestine problem, situation, conflict, if you will. The four that make up the Quartet are the United States, the United Nations, the European Union, and Russia. And their Special Envoy to them is Tony Blair. So the fact that he's hand in glove and in cahoots with a Saudi oil company, part-owned or headed up, the Saudi oil company is headed up by the member of the Saudi royal family, makes everybody a little bit skeptical as to the fact that he cannot be impartial, and they question his ability to act in a subjective or objective fashion.
So it appears as though there's a conflict of interest.
To put it mildly, yes. Here's what the contract said. The contract wants Mr. Blair to make introductions to the senior political leadership, industrial policymakers, corporate entities, and other persons in China deemed to be relevant to PetroSaudi's international strategy.
Well, surprise, surprise. I mean, he was
this
not
must be manna from heaven for you.
Oh, no, but come on. I mean, he appeared to be a lapdog, you know, in the lead up and during the Iraq war, but he was no lapdog at all. He knew his payday was coming. And, you know, he wasn't just like, oh, you know, I'll do whatever you want, Georgie. He knew the payday was coming. It's like he does the public service job knowing the payoff is coming the day he resigns. And what happened the day he resigned?
Well, he gets appointed Special Envoy. You think it was that cynical? I mean, let's just contextualize what Mark's saying there. He has amassed allegedly a fortune of something in the region of £100 million, so $150 million in excess of, since retiring. He owns 35 properties around the world. He is one of the highest paid speakers in the world. He gets paid £150,000, that's about $250,000 every time he makes an appearance. So he's a highly paid, highly sought after public speaker, public figure with an enviable, you know, list of contacts within his Rolodex.
And while he was in office, he used the resources and the blood of his countrymen to enact a foreign policy that would put him in the position to gain that wealth. You know, there's like, we look at this like, oh, such a shock. It's such a conflict of interest. How could he possibly do this? When it's so fucking obvious. That is why he does it. I mean, it's not a conflict of interest. It's exactly in his interest. It's 100% in alignment with his interests.
So this is what he's also said, and this is why I think people's eyebrows have been raised further, and people are really questioning, people who perhaps supported him in the past are questioning him now, is that he made a statement, a long essay, if you like, on his website, in which he said he feels no accountability or no remorse for the invasion in 2003. Hang on a second. And the reason for it was the fact that, and he sees that the continued strife and problems in the region, in Iraq, in Syria, is a result of the failure of the Maliki government. It's got nothing to do with the actions that he took. And that in fact, failure on the part of Western governments to take action, most notably in Syria, have actually exacerbated the problem. So that's actually caused a lot of people to get their noses out of joint, because they're like, how can you be so fucking delusional?
And George Bush has made a similar statement in his latest book tour. He has no regret. And we can see the picture of Tony Blair at the Remembrance Day in Great Britain, just their version of Veterans Day, and mourning, you know, the loss of the veterans. And this is the man who, from his own greed, for his own gain, sent men and women to die and to be injured. There's thousands who have been affected by this, who are just in Great Britain alone, not to say the least of which, among the entire coalition, he sent them there for financial gain for himself, his partners, and the same with the Bush administration. He's got that on his hands, and for him to say he's got no guilt about it, man, the guy has got a lot coming to him.
Well, there's been calls for him to stand down and be removed, in fact, as special envoy. The former ambassador to Libya, most notably amongst the people who have petitioned and asked for him to be removed. There's no sign that that's going to happen. The Blair office, or Tony Blair Associates, the holding company under which all of his business dealings are funneled, has made the following statement on his behalf. They said that Tony Blair Associates worked for PetroSaudi for a period of months over 4 years ago. This was in connection with an issue in the Far East and nothing whatsoever to do with the Middle East or the unpaid ex officio role of Tony Blair for the quartet in Palestine, referring back to the unpaid role that he does as special envoy. And really what they're saying is that he was, even though, and this is why it's bullshit, because they're claiming that even though he was paid by PetroSaudi, the reality is it wasn't a conflict, because actually he was petitioning and working on behalf of the Chinese, or it was really all of his focus and energy was on China and not really in the Middle East. And it's bullshit because the paymasters were PetroSaudi.
It goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. Foreign policy is just a tool of business. And once it was pepper and spices or tea, and now it's petrochemical, and this is just another example of that. They go hand in hand. It's no big surprise, is it?
It's terribly disturbing. Let us know your thoughts. Should Tony Blair stand down as special envoy? Let us know your thoughts on this and other matters related to the scandal. And as always, thanks for being with us here, and don't forget to subscribe to the Lib TV.